You know, finally decided what to name this thing. I'm going to call it the Stepchild, since we're an old school big block or small block family. Got to looking down the throat of the carburetor, and I didn't like the way the transition from this spacer I'm going to have to run, which is a old school NOS cheater plate, but I'm going to have to use it to make sure my accelerator pumps have clearance. That's okay. It's only like a 1/2 inch thick. But when you actually got on the intake, like this whole edge right here, there was a sharp 90-degree edge on the intake. And for those of you who've ever done any port work, those 90-degree edges are going to give you a lot of tumbling air, create a little bit of reversion. So other than these areas right here, which I'm not going to grind all that out, I pulled the intake, blended all that so we'd have a nice smooth transition to make the best out of what we have, and wound up doing that. We've got the coil packs on it. Of course, I think I said that earlier in another video. Got these headers off of eBay. They're cheap, just headers I'm going to use to run on the engine stand. We might use it in something depending on what car we put it in. Wound up getting a starter off eBay and got us a flywheel. This flywheel is actually a pretty nice piece, even though it's not a brand name one. Looks just as good as the ones I bought from Summit or Jegs, and it's relatively thick. We're going to see how it works. Come with a spacer and the converter bolts and everything. They're Chinesium knockoff ARP bolts. We'll see how good they really are. The one cool thing that these headers have is actually got V-band clamp flanges, so that takes me back to being in the Air Force. For those of you who ever worked on a Dash 95, pulled the combustion can, you'll know what I'm talking about. But got our adapter here for the oil pressure sending unit, so we can actually hook a mechanical gauge to it. Long time ago, when I first built the engine, new sensors from Rock Auto, and when I put the header on the engine, what's the number one bolt that breaks in an LS engine? This one, and probably the one on the other side. Well, it was stripped out. The bolt wasn't in there, which I was glad about, but it was stripped. So we wound up fixing that. Got the Duralast spark plug wires on it and a set of Autolite spark plugs we're going to put in it to fire it up. It's not a bunch of high dollar parts. We're going to make what we have work and see how this engine sounds. That's my plan, to start it up, let y'all hear it run. Really, the engine itself, going through and putting the engine together, I probably had about $2,000 in building the short block with, well, the long block, camshaft, everything, with Rock Auto parts and some stuff from Scoggin and Dickey. And the rest of it's cheap eBay stuff or O'Reilly's. Altogether, I got a whole long block sitting here. Probably got about 2,500 bucks in it. And I bought it's a blue, or a blown up 6-liter that came out of a truck. Maybe it'll make 400 horsepower, who knows? We'll see. More to come.